How about being a dude of the week, Bill? Can you imagine ever being honored with such a lofty piece of praise?
I aspire to be a dude of the week someday.
I love it. And Ohio State leaning into that as summer workouts in the midst of a very busy offseason conditioning program for them. Hot, steamy out there, and earning that dude of the week honor. That's worth talking about because we've got several weeks of them built up. Sometimes I just peruse right past that. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. Does that actually mean something? Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. But this is the Podcast Daily. It is Tuesday. It is late in June. And let's catch up on it.
It's Dudes Day.
It's Dudes Day. Hey, nicely done. Happy Dudes Day from the Podcast Daily. I didn't want to make it another Jeremiah Smith show, but he's got it twice.
I know.
Like, what are they? They're going like full bore on the hype in a way that I just don't recall.
That's why I don't mind doing it myself because I try to be fair to these young men and not heap too much expectation on them. But when the program's doing it, like why would I not do it? So I have not kept a log of everyone that has been a dude of the week, but I definitely clocked that Jeremiah Smith has won it twice, which is, I don't know, I guess pretty impressive, right? You want to be recognized by your peers and your coaches for your work ethic during the offseason. So the fact that this kid is among the most talented players that has like shown up here as a true freshman and is also putting that work in makes me think the hype is real. Like he's going, like I already thought the hype is real, but like it makes me, I don't know, for as incredibly high as my expectations already were, it makes me want to ratchet him up that much more to know that like he works his butt off too.
Yeah, and I think you can tell with the way Ohio State has been handing out these awards, and sometimes you want to spread the attention around for the whole team, and everyone wants to feel good. And I don't want to go as far as saying that people might treat it like participation trophies, but like you're not going to see a lot of repeat winners. And like, well, this guy deserves some credit. Let's pat somebody else on the back and give them a social media bump. Ohio State has been, I don't know, pretty consistent about like, if this is who earned it, then that's who's getting the attention. And that's the part where normally I would just, like I said, breeze past it and not put a lot of stock in it. But they've done it back-to-back weeks, and I think about that with like the Iron Buckeyes and the people that they honor, you know, whether that's winter workouts or anything else. Like they're not doing it to give 20 people attention or to give 30 people T-shirts. Like and I've seen other programs do that. I've seen that actually happen at times, like when Ohio State was having 8 captains, and I'm like, well, if you have 8, you might not have enough. Yeah. You probably have too many, or you haven't narrowed it down on the ones that actually matter. So, again, it's another thing that I'm latching onto that maybe nothing in the grand scheme of things. Jeremiah Smith's not played a game. Jack Sawyer has. When he gets it, you know that's probably pretty well earned as well. But I don't know. Something about it just made me think. It caught my attention.
Well, yeah, no, and it should. I think when you're Ohio State and you sell what Ohio State sells, which is the developed here, come practice against the best players in the country, the iron sharpens iron, all that stuff, and like it seems like they like challenge people on that notion when they're recruiting them. Like, are you built for this, or are you not built for this? You don't want that to change like once you get on campus, right? And
right.
You want it to mean something. When you are recognized as someone who is like rising above that and doing something that is noteworthy. If they just passed it around and gave everybody dude of the week or gave them a T-shirt or whatever, like you would eventually water that down to the point where the message you're delivering and recruiting doesn't actually mean anything. So I'm glad that they do it that way, right? I would probably, I don't know, criticizing someone for like recruiting pitches would be weird, but like I would maybe call attention to the fact, or if they weren't like living up to that. I think that would be worth pointing out. So that they are, I think, is equally, if not more, important to point it out. So that makes it more meaningful for me because I know like all that stuff they talk about is not just like recruiting BS. Like they want to be about that life. So when a handful of guys stand out in that atmosphere, I absolutely think it means something.
Yeah, there's a big part of me that wished that the Friday Night Lift had not been canceled last week. There were some logistical challenges for Ohio State, and actually once it got to the finish line, like to see, because these clips and some of these dudes of the week that Ohio State is sharing on social media, like they look like crazy, like as intimidating as possible. Like I didn't think it would be within the realm of possibility for Jack Sawyer to become more intimidating. And then, well, here you go. Maybe it's just because it's cut in black and white. I don't know. It just looks.
It does make it look better. It's more serious, more dramatic.
It looks like
cinematography.
Cinematic workouts. So I wanted to see that part of it. I was also glad that people didn't have to sit in St. John on a Friday night at 5 o'clock when it was 100 degrees outside, which didn't seem ideal.
I wasn't too upset about that getting canceled on that particular day. If it were nicer, I would have been a little more, or a little cooler, I would have been a little more upset.
Yeah. Well, I hope they do bring something back similar in the future, but maybe and I know that there was some conversation about it. I talked with Mickey Marotti and Ryan Day a little bit about, the cancellation and what they were going to do on Thursday at the golf outing. It's like, I said one of the things that didn't make a ton of sense to me was like doing it at that exact time, because that's not when they would normally work out.
Yeah.
It's like, there's got to be some other way. They've done open houses. They've done the open practices. Like maybe people would be more willing to like have a tour of the Woody and see a 6 or 7 a.m. workout. I know I've asked a lot of times over the years and wanted to do stories on match drills. I know part of that is like supposed to be private and supposed to be, competitive. But if you're looking for fundraising opportunities, that's got to be the way. That's neither here nor there for dudes of the week. But it did start. It wasn't just Jeremiah Smith. Like Emeka Egbuka was also in this category of people who just absolutely looked phenomenal. He was one of the first ones honored in June. And we saw him, Bill, I don't know, it was the 4th or 5th recruiting camp, and he was in there doing some drills with Will Howard. It's like every time you see him and talk to him, it's like there's a ton of attention on Jeremiah Smith for good reason. But like dating back to that ridiculous catch in the spring game and the workouts that Emeka's doing, I just keep feeling like maybe he's not getting the acclaim that he's due.
He's probably not. I know I'm definitely guilty of that. It's fun to talk about guys like Jeremiah, or I'm sure once we get eyeballs on Mylan Graham in camp, we'll be talking about him a lot too, right? It's the sort of the nature of college football coverage that we get enamored with whoever the new exciting player is on campus. But I have a feeling that Emeka will remind us pretty quickly once the season starts how good he is. But yeah, if you spend any time around him in the offseason, even when we had him at the fairway for Buck 9 and he's like ripping off drives that are 185 miles an hour, you're just like, my goodness, this guy is an incredible athlete, which like, of course he is. He was the number 1 receiver in the country coming out of high school, but it's not a bad thing to be reminded of that every now and then. And I do like, he's going to have a monster year. Like hopefully he stays healthy and kind of puts that part of his career behind him, because all the different ways they can use him, which we all know, like it's really teed up for him, I think, to have a special season. And I think like the presence of someone like Jeremiah will help that, right? Because if Ohio State was returning like just Emeka Egbuka and like a bunch of guys who hadn't played much or didn't have as much notoriety and attention, I think that like Jeremiah has already, like that would be a difficult way of life for Emeka, like just kind of getting constantly double teamed and stuff like that. And I don't think that'll happen, because Jeremiah and Carnell Tate and maybe Trevion Henderson, if he's used as a receiver too, I think will divert some of that attention and allow Emeka to just kind of play sort of straight up and do what he does. So I don't know. I'm not going to like give you a guess on statistics and stuff like that, but I think he is potentially poised to have perhaps the best season of his career, and he certainly looks this offseason like he's gearing up for that.
Same goes for Cody Simon. I know that regular listeners and watchers of the podcast daily will have heard me talk a lot about Cody Simon and how much more important he is for Ohio State than maybe he also gets credit for. We'll see what happens. I think he has already been more productive and is in a key role. It's about changing minds and opinions from that first year, which was so difficult for him, injury-related shoulder holding him back and playing on a pretty bad defense. But I think he's got 2 Dudes of the Week honors in June, if I'm not mistaken. And so that is only going to make sure that I keep talking about him a lot more heading into August.
He's another guy that's gotten sort of overlooked a little bit because of the changing nature of that position. And I almost feel bad sometimes when we talk about it, because it's like, man, what excites with the linebacker position? It's like, well, it's the length and the speed and the versatility of guys like Sonny and CJ and Arvell and Gabe Powers. And it's like, and oh, by the way, Cody Simon is also part of that group. The guy who has played the most and by far been the most productive.
And will play the most.
And will play the most, and probably, I don't know. It stands certainly not a chance to be Ohio State's leading tackler this year. It'll probably either be him or Caleb Downs, I'd imagine. Maybe Lathan Ransom gets into that mix too. But like, he's going to be very productive, and perhaps more importantly, just sort of like steady, reliable, smart. Nothing can like kind of phase him kind of player. Steady. It's probably maybe the right word. Which steady at times might be something you say about someone is like. Maybe not all that good, but you want to throw him a bone and give him a compliment. Like, no, Cody Simon is like good on top of that. He's much improved from where he was when he was kind of tossed in there early in his career. Maybe not quite ready, or maybe the scheme of the defense or whatever wasn't really doing anybody any favors. But to see how far he's come in those couple of years is really remarkable. And it's good. Like, it's not surprising whatsoever to see him get honored like as dude of the week, because of course that guy's going to put the work in, but. It's another guy when you like combine the work ethic with the smarts and probably athleticism we don't talk about enough. He is poised to have a really strong season.
I think that's what takes me back to the beginning and starting the conversation with Jeremiah Smith, because like Cody Simon, yeah, all right, no brainer. The work ethic's well known. Emeka Egbuka, yep, all right, cool. Jack Sawyer, it's like they've been around so long. It's like there's nothing going to be new and exciting about it. But that's also all those veterans are still out there in this summer workout program doing the things that they've always done, and Jeremiah Smith is still taking it twice. It's like that's not for nothing.
No, it's not. And like this is not. I don't think people should be thinking much about this at the moment, but it's always sort of in the back of my mind, right? Like they brought all these guys back, which means they're all going to be gone after this year. Like the leadership of this team, the people that set the tone, is going to change over in a rather significant way after the 2024 season, and like you hope that happens. With the national championship and everything that comes with that. But regardless, like people are going to have to step up to fill that void. So to see a freshman like Jeremiah, who I have no idea actually like how vocal he is or isn't. I'd imagine maybe not very much so at the moment because he is only a freshman, but I actually think actions matter more than words at that point anyway. So if he is a guy who would already at this stage is among the most talented players on the roster and clearly among the hardest workers on the roster, that would have me feeling really good about where things are progressing beyond this year, even though I understand the hyper focus on 2024 and what's at stake.
And I was going to try not to just save it for the very end because Patrick Gerd also earned it. And we, both of us, but mainly me, have pretty consistently just overlooked, dismissed, not even talked about Patrick Gerd when we've done position previews. And here he is. He's a dude of the week.
I wrote the tight end state of the position at Rivals last week. And like finished it and was reading it. I was like, I'm forgetting somebody. I was like, oh yeah, it's Patrick Gerd. So I had to go back and like rewrite it a little bit to make sure that I mentioned him because like he's going to play, right? He has a very specific role, I think, on this offense, and we've seen what that role can look like with Mitch Rossi. Maybe it's not quite to that level. I don't know if they're going to actually hand Patrick Gerd the ball, but I do think they're going to ask him to block out of the backfield quite a bit, and I actually think he's not half bad at it. So, again, like walk-ons, I think are. Or former walk-on, we'll see if they end up putting him on scholarship or not, but bring a different mentality so it's not ultimately terribly surprising to see him listed that way, but it is another, again, a reminder of a guy who I think is going to play a role for Ohio State this year.
It's weird for me that I just keep leaving that out as much as I love the fullback or hybrid position that they've used and like think that it's really important and like you must fill the Mitch Rossi void. I know that Keenan Bailey's talked about that throughout the summer when they've been looking at some guys in camp, like firing up Mitch Rossi clips. Like, could this guy do this or go do that? Like, the athletic profile and like background for Patrick Gerd is not the same as Mitch Rossi, who played a lot of running back and had the football in his hands a ton. That I'm not using that as an excuse for why I overlook it. It's hard for me to envision. Like, is he actually going to do that? Is he going to play 150 snaps? I guess there's a really decent chance that could happen, but I'm struggling to like get my mind around to that potential reality.
Yeah, I'm curious about the tight end position in general, and I know the blocking has always been prioritized at that position, but it feels like they don't need someone to be as prolific a receiver as Cade Stover was. So then like blocking to me seems like the thing that is ultimately going to dictate who plays and who doesn't. And Patrick Gerd seems to do that pretty well, right? I think the room, top to bottom, is probably a little better than it's been the last couple of years. But everyone needs to be improved. I think it was a struggle for this team the last couple of years blocking at that position. And I'm not saying like Patrick Gerd is the answer to that, but I think his willingness to do it and success on a small sample size doing it. Gives them a chance to get on the field. 150 snaps, 80 snaps, I have no idea. But I think there are going to be important plays during the season where Ohio State's like trying to get a key third down or score a touchdown in the low red zone, and Patrick Kerr's going to be in there trying to block somebody.
Or out there in the T formation.
The T formation with Caleb Downs.
Oh, well. Now you've gone too far. Come on, Bill.
Sorry.
Maybe we'll talk about that next week when we roll into the state of the position groups. We've got a couple of those episodes that will be coming your way, but before then, Bill's going to go on some vacation. He might already be on vacation, depending on when this publishes and when we recorded it.
Not quite. Almost. On my way. My way.
So he's certainly earned some time off, and I hope that you get to enjoy and relax a little bit over the coming days.
Looking forward to it. I'm going to take the 1.5-year-old now.
Yeah. Time flies.
To the ocean. We took him there last year as a 6-month-old, but he wasn't so much about that when he was 6 months old.
He's ready to splash around now?
We'll see. Hopefully.
Okay. Well, I know it's going to be a good time for that growing young dude. And it was fun to talk about the Ohio State dudes on a Dudes Day edition. Thanks to Bill Landis for teeing that one up of the Podcast Daily. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. He's Bill. I'm Austin. So long.